Hi, I'm Joy, and this is Pilates Perspectives. Today we have a very special episode. In an anthological style, we will hear from Kristi Cooper, John Marston, and Sloane, all about Pilates Anytime and its contribution to the streaming platforms that we know and use to this day. But before we get started, let's check in. So for today's check-in, let's focus on breath. So wherever you are, whether you're driving, you're cooking, you're just hanging out, listening to this podcast, let's just take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. Today, we start by talking with Kristi Cooper and John Marston. They're longtime business partners who, alongside with Ted Johnson, launched Pilates Anytime in 2010. Pilates Anytime was a pioneer in Pilates video streaming, which in a world full of video streaming platforms can be hard to conceptualize now. John and Kristi are here today to give us a better view of what it was like to be the first of their kind. After their conversation, we'll hear from Sloane, who took over the reins of CEO in 2023, and what it was like taking on that role after her work with the sister company, Yoga Anytime. All right, so I'm here today with Kristi Cooper and John Marston of Pilates Anytime and Pilates Anytime fame. They are two of the three founders of Pilates Anytime, or I should say the originators of Pilates On Demand. And we are so thrilled to have this conversation with them. Did you know when you started Pilates Anytime that you were going to be ahead of the video on demand learning curve?
First of all, thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
From my perspective, it was like it was worth a try. And I knew it was cutting edge. And I was also slightly fearful of what the backlash may be because not many, if any, had done it yet. But I felt like the point of it was so much more important that it was worth giving it a shot. Did I know it was cutting edge? I didn't even know how to email back then. So I'll pass it to John.
Yeah. So we're talking 2010, right? So this medium was really brand new for Pilates. What was the point of it, Kristi?
The point of it, straight up and still, is to provide access to the highest quality Pilates that's out there, to show, to be the mirror on what is so about Pilates, so that you have a chance to take from different styles, different people, and be able to peek in the studio, so to speak,
right.
To be able to lay down a mat and take from somebody and decide if you wanted to go to a studio and or supplement your workout. Yeah, that was the point.
How about for you, John?
We discussed the concept of Pilates Anytime in 2009. So I'll just remind you what was happening in 2009. There was a Blockbuster on every corner.
That's right, yeah.
Netflix was DVDs in the mail. Instagram hadn't been invented. You couldn't upload video onto Facebook. The longest videos you could put on YouTube, if I remember right, were 10 minutes. So we were struggling with introducing 1 hour streaming video. So technology challenges associated with that. So we had all of these tech issues. Then we had marketing issues of explaining what was a streaming video, because you couldn't say it's like HBO or
right.
Like
it was unlike anything at the time.
People would say, "Oh, you're going to get VCR tapes or DVDs.
Yeah.
Or what are we going to get?" No, you're going to just stream it. Oh, how's that going to work? So there was a lot of education that went in our very early advertising, just explaining what a streaming service was. So that was the landscape we were in. But I would say that, videos of exercise videos was probably really demonstrated being successful by Jane Fonda. So many, many years before we got into this. What was different was about streaming exercise videos.
Well, and so if you think about it in that context, I find this fascinating. Where did the streaming come from? Like who thought up, hey, let's do Pilates streaming videos?
Well, so I have a belief that opportunities for entrepreneurs come from what I think of as discontinuities or changes in the force, for a Star Wars reference here. And what was happening at that point is, if you remember YouTube was founded a few years before that.
Right.
And when you got a YouTube video at the time, you get like a little video player about this big that you would watch these videos on, because that was all the bandwidth that was in most houses. You know, you might remember DSL modems and the funny noises that modems made and all of those things. So what was happening is streaming was getting faster and faster. So suddenly it was becoming possible to consume a high definition video on your home computer because the bandwidth was getting faster into your homes. So that was the discontinuity that was going on. So Ted and I were discussing, like, how do we make the most of this change? So we were looking at it through our lens, and our lens was, I think that video streaming is going to be the way that videos get distributed. And you might even remember a format called Blu-ray.
Oh, yes, yes.
So there has been various different formats that have been in physical medium, and then this was the opportunity to get into streaming. So streaming was just beginning. We were not the first fitness streaming people. If you're familiar with Yoga Glow, which is now called Glow, they'd launched in 2008. So other people had been in streaming fitness.
It wasn't nearly as consumable and available as it is today. So
absolutely,
it was still new technology.
Yeah, it was a challenge. We kind of talked about it at the time. If we can get the video player to work most of the time, we're being successful. Today, you know, we're down to fractions of a second in latency in terms of how quickly those videos stream. But that was the challenges we had back in 2009.
That's fantastic. So Ted, who is not here. So tell the audience a little bit about Ted and your relationship, both of your relationship to Ted.
So Ted and I have been business partners since 2005. And Ted's wife, Erica, went to middle school and high school with Kristi.
Here we go.
Best friend.
Love it.
So that was the connection between the three of us. And when Ted and I were looking at streaming fitness videos, we looked at a variety of formats. And Ted and Kristi had made a video in 2008, so a year before Pilates Anytime was incorporated, that is actually on our website still. And that was the very first video. And that was distributed not as a subscription, but as a pay-per-view. And a little bit of success, but what was a little bit different in the 2009 idea is it's going to be a subscription video on demand service. So that's what kind of changed, and that's how it evolved.
So your original video with Ted was a pay-per-view video.
And was that separate?
That was separate from Pilates Anytime? That was just something you guys got together on?
Yeah. So Ted had listened to, well, for one, he'd known I'd done Pilates for as long as he knew me, which includes middle school through high school. And he kept thinking, why don't you have a product, et cetera. And he'd heard me bemoan not being able to leverage my time. You know, I would like to take a vacation and get paid, or, you know,
right.
But I was an independent contractor when that was still okay. And so, yeah, he just said, we decided to do a video podcast, is what he called it. His background in sound and film, and he was making websites already. So he was like, we'll make it and we'll do enough of them that people will keep coming back. I thought it was free, but maybe it was pay-per-view. And in any case, we only did the one because it was so labor intensive to do it randomly with just the two of us. Right. And then a year later, John and Ted.
All right. So you and Ted proposed the idea. I would love to know how that even just got hatched. And then you came to Kristi in 2009. What drove your interest in Pilates, John?
So why did we pick Pilates and not, I don't know, Tai Chi or something else? So what Ted and I had taken venture capital in a prior business. And as soon as we took that venture capital, we lost control of the business. We were working for the man again. Right. So this time around, and in that particular business, we were competing against Google and Microsoft. It didn't end.
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
Well. So this time we thought we were going to.
I don't know there's a slingshot big enough for that giant.
No,
Yeah.
that was a tough set of competitors. So this time around, we thought we don't want to take money from anybody else because we want to control our own destiny. We want to have the control to how we want to run the companies the way that we want to run it, that our values. And once you get into the VC business, you're really like working for the VC, and VC has one metric, making money. And that wasn't really how Ted and I approached the world. Like we had this vague idea about we want to do good.
Right.
Whatever that means. That's a
Right.
pretty nebulous kind of thing. But not do evil was kind of how it was. How can we make the world a better place? So we didn't want to take VC money. So we didn't want to go into a market where we would be competing against the giants again. The Sony Pictures, the Netflixes, those huge companies. So at the time, back in 2009, Pilates wasn't a particularly big exercise modality.
Right.
And so we thought that when we were kind of evaluating the pros and cons of launching into yoga or Tai Chi or CrossFit or, all of these other things, it was kind of interesting to us that we looked at the Pilates market. Nobody else was really streaming. There was a few things on YouTube. But
Well, in 2009, the Pilates market was really quite small. It was still a niche market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of looked at things and decided this was a space where we were early. We had great expertise in partnering with Kristi, and we thought we would try it.
All right. So they come to you with this idea.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
I said, no, absolutely not. Who am I to be the first person to do this? I'm not name any one of our leaders. That was my first reaction was no. Because thinking back, the only people that it was okay to even have a DVD at that time was the bigger names, the
Right.
Ramanas, the Rails,
Right.
the
Mari had
Mari.
right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so they said, I think they said in my head, one of them said, don't you think it's time to put Pilates online? And I did say no, but it was also, I believe in the same conversation, maybe the next one, where John said, have you seen YouTube? And I was like, I knew of it, but I didn't really go there because I'm in the studio 8 hours a day, right?
Right.
So they took me there, taught me how to expand the screen. And I was really, I'm surprised they partnered with me. And I saw what was called Pilates, 1 million hits per view back in 2009, and it just wasn't what I knew. And so it was really quick for me to say, I don't know, I just had a flash of, oh, no, this is, not only do we have to do it, I'm the right person to do it because I'm not a Rail or Ramana or I can see the bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Who were your earliest influences in Pilates?
Oh, easy. Kathy Corey, for sure. And she influenced me in more ways than just Pilates, but it was at a time in my life, I was 13. She took care of me, a bit of a mom figure at that time for me, but she empowered me in a way that I had never been empowered by an adult before, in that she listened to me, she trusted me. When I asked to teach when I was 13 or 14, she was like, let's see if you still like this next year. And then when I did, she let me and she listened to me. So she was really key. And she nurtured it. Kathy Murakami also, when I really went to dive in to learn all the apparatus, she was there. She had learned a lot from Alan Herdman. And so she influenced me in the way she can break things down and she could just teach, like really teach. And she also had a fitness background, which I had kind of transitioned into. So there was a camaraderie in that. And then I can't say most notably, but a big influence was when I met Rail. And Rail Isakowitz, this was at a time where the trademark lawsuit was really in high gear. We didn't have a result yet, but we knew something was coming down. We better get certified in the whichever way, 500 hours. So we went to Rail. When I say we, there was a handful of my friends. I went down to see Rail, and he just blew me away with his magnetism, his athleticism, his passion. And yeah, I was really hooked by then. Yeah. So those are my main influences.
Those are perfect adjectives for him. Those are perfect ways to describe him. Yeah.
It's like, I want some of that in my life.
And then how did that influence your early choices when you were deciding, okay, who are we inviting in? How are we doing this? What is the feel and the look of this going to be?
That's a great question. What?
Well, I think there was a lot of doubt about a lot of people about, when we think about reaching the instructors very early on. Mm-hmm. So we started off with 5 people in Santa Barbara. And Kristi will be able to share all their names. But those 5 people were really like, trust us, this is going to be a good idea. Because if you think about it, like, what are you asking me to do was kind of the reaction very, very early on.
I was in the Pilates world at that time, and I could only imagine.
Yeah, imagine the Teflon I was wearing.
Yes, the response you got. You really did probably need to be tough in order to and believe in the product you were about to deliver.
Yeah. Go ahead. She asked me, but you go right ahead.
I'll answer part of this question. So those 5 initial people, Kristi, they are wonderful people. They took the risk. They did it with us in late 2009. Mm-hmm. And one of our philosophies has been put something out in the market and see what happens. So we filmed 20 videos. We put it up on the 1st of January 2010. And then we emailed like mums and dads and brothers and sisters and family and friends and said, please, can you subscribe to this? And, family do those things, right, and your friends do it. And then on the 4th of January, we had the first customer that signed up that none of us knew. And it was like, wow, somebody's going to buy this product.
Do you know who that is? Do you know that? I never heard that.
Is that your cousin?
And I would check every day. Well, they still haven't canceled, and they still haven't canceled.
Right.
And then we got our first payment, after the 15-day free trial from this customer. And then I rang her up. I emailed her and I said, could I talk to her? And she explained what she liked about it. And we realized that there were people out there that didn't think our idea was stupid. Because certainly a lot of my families and friends like, no, that's a dumb idea, John. Why are you wasting all this time and money trying to create this thing? So that was the very beginning of just getting customers and then finding out what they wanted. And, I'll hand the question back to Kristi, but I just wanted to share that little bit of the story.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that. Right before we got those 5, John and Ted asked me, like, why don't you just get all your friends? Which in my world at the time, I was working very much for rail. So it would have been all Bassy.
Right.
And I was like, no. We can't, we have to show the options. So I, from the very day one, wanted representation from Romana, representation from different schools. Right. Not all the schools necessarily, but just a variety. So you could take Amy Havens, who'd learned from Pat Guyton, and so on. And
the different voices.
And to show what Pilates is, because there was some Ron Fletcher in there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's different. So it's just to show what it was. And I guess the best way to say the idea was really for it to be a global studio. Like you could be anywhere, you could come in, and if we do our job over time, we'll get more styles represented. But we had those 5, and then soon after 6 people representing almost all of us. 2 of us represented Bassy, but it just showed that there's more out there, and you can still do what you do, but this can supplement. And
who were your initial 5?
Monica Wilson is Romana's great niece, so related. And they all live in town. That was, sometimes in your life you get green light, and this was one of those times. Adrienne Crawford also worked with Romana in New York. Amy Havens, I feel like she was there even before the start of Pilates Anytime, Pat Guyton's influence, Meredith Rogers, Bassie, myself, and then Neadra came on about 3 weeks into it, also from Ramona and Alan Herdman.
Right.
Yeah.
And from that 5, when did you start inviting in more?
Thank you. 6 months.
6 months.
I wrote 10 emails. Yeah. And Kathy Corey instantly said yes, so I won't count her. So 9 emails, and no one got back to me, or so I thought. But yeah, so it took 6 months because I wanted to show them, here's what we're doing. Look, it's Ramona's great niece, you know.
Right. And so you said you had a lot of Teflon on in those days. What was some of the stuff that was coming at you? What was some of the skepticism that was coming at you?
Mostly silence in the beginning. Mostly silence in the beginning. And then I'd end up running into, say, Madeline Black at an anatomy class somewhere. And like, oh, I'm going to get her now. Right. But it was mostly that. But I got from people that, the worst of it was people out. I got a lot of, how dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are? And even if they were silent, I could feel it too. But, you know, I had a few key people that helped me get through tough stages like that. I was dismissed. People walked away fast if they saw me, you know. If I said, hi, I just want to talk to you real quick, they'd be like, out.
So by the time, I had a studio in New York for a long time. And by the time I came to Balanced Body in 2013, it was a very different Pilates Anytime at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, people were rushing at you.
Yes.
So you went from sort of being like, oh, there's that, there are those Pilates Anytime people, or there's that Kristi Cooper, to being sought after.
Yeah.
When did that transition start?
I'd guess somewhere in 2000, about 2 years in would be my guess. And I think some of the resistance was, is this going to impact my core business of traveling the world teaching?
Yeah.
And so if I put my content online, nobody will pay to go to my in-person workshops. And what began to happen was that people realized, oh my God, half the people in this workshop are here because they see my work on Pilates Anytime. Oh, this is the best PR marketing I can do.
Right.
And then on top of that, people began to realize, I'm getting a check, I'm being paid to do this. So the combination of helping their core business and being fairly paid. One of the innovations that I don't think is much of an innovation, but it felt like when I entered the Pilates industry, was that we paid people on time. We paid them what they were promised. You'd go to quite a lot of the conferences, and
I'm still owed for a few conferences.
You'd never get paid. And so the fact that we, paid your expenses, we paid you fairly, we paid you on time, was an innovation, which is a little sad, but that was.
If I can just add one other thing I got was people were really afraid to put themselves on video as if forever. Like if I
that's interesting.
Yeah, I still get that from someone who comes new, but it's like I spent more hours than I care to remember talking people into. No, it's okay if something in the world changes where you taught a workshop and now the information is different, we'll update it or we'll take it down. You're not going to live in perpetuity for a class, and we're not going to let you look bad because it was a win-win all the way around, but that took some serious convincing in the early years.
Did you have a sense of what it? I mean, I guess when you're building a business plan and you have a vision, you have a sense of what it could be, right? But did you have an understanding of the extent of the growth and influence you'd have in the Pilates community, in the Pilates world?
So we put a business model together in 2009. What would be a success in this business?
What would that look like, right?
And our stretch case that we thought was there was if we could get 4,000 subscribers, we would be a home run. We'd be there.
Right.
We're past that.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get to that initial 4,000?
Let me answer the question in a different way. The business grew very quickly.
Yeah.
And so we didn't pay ourselves for a couple of years, but we were cash flow positive within 3 months.
Fantastic. Wow.
So it was an exciting journey for the last 15 years.
So that's growth. How about influence in the Pilates? You were going to say something, Kristi.
Well, I was just, when I'll never forget it, I tend to be the one that goes, that's not right. We haven't even gotten started at that much, at 4,000,
Right.
There's still so much to do. And so just to throw that in, because I tend to be the one that has zero proof of it's still going well, but we have so much more to say. So I did have a sense that we're doing the right thing. We can help more people. We're helping teachers. So, the more that people catch on, the more they realize this is a good thing, which was, for me personally, a little bit of a blessing and a curse, because I got a little overwhelmed by the desire to be there and hurting feelings and trying to, take care of the people that were already there.
You went from not getting your emails returned to everyone expecting you to choose them.
Yes.
Yeah. The big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was year 3 and 4 were hard for me in that way, only because I had a way of operating, and this felt like I was suddenly a weird gatekeeper or something like that, which was not my personality or what we were doing. It was just like, there's only so many days in the year. And it takes something to actually make a good video or podcast, as you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But that's a really interesting, setting a schedule and setting an idea and creating sort of the Pilates Anytime culture, right? It has the iconic window. It's the global studio. I love that idea that everybody knows that studio no matter where you are in the world, right? As you were curating that, how challenging was it to decide what the schedule was going to look like and who was going to be in those first or those early videos, those early years?
I think you might be able to answer that one better.
Let me have a go at that. There's only so many days in a year that we have flown talent in from all over the world. So you then get into if somebody's going to come from New York to come to our studio, it's not worth coming for half an hour. It's worth coming for a few days. So generally people come for 3 days. Not always, but in general. So that means that you have 52 weeks, but you also have holidays and you've got other things going on.
And then you have the post-production and you have the preparation.
We typically film about 44 weeks of the year in the studio.
Wow, that's a lot more than I would have thought.
So that means unless you have somebody come twice, that you have about 44 different people there. And there is clearly a demand for more people to come in than that. So that's the logistical constraint of the studio. And then you have some people that are just incredibly popular, so you might invite them back a couple of times because you want more of their content, because it's, we're in the business of providing the service that people want. So that's how we kind of grapple with it. So then you get into a matrix of, we need some, what I would consider the much more academic kind of Pilates teachers, the people that are very strong on
going to take that. You're answering my next question. Yeah.
So you have an element of that. Then you have an element of people that are just magnetic on camera. So much more about the choreography that they do, the way they interact with the camera. They have an incredible presence.
Yourself included.
so there's a variety of things, and I'm not going to go through all of the ways that we cut and dice that content pool. But we don't want, just to publish the same video by different teachers every day of the year. And then there's the variation on the pieces of equipment, like we need, math classes, we need reformer classes, we need equipment classes, Cadillacs, barrels, chairs, and whatever. So that is the complexity of this. And then there's the need to always be listening to what is going on in the high street all over the world. What is a Pilates teacher, or what is somebody interested in at that particular point in time?
And where is this going? And what's next? And who are the new voices?
Yeah.
Because it is also easy to be held into what it's always been.
Yeah.
It's
Can
a
I
challenge.
throw in one thing on that too, just taking it back to how did I decide, and sort of what let me off the hook was I really felt like I needed to honor the people that came before me. So here I'm trying to show, you can find Pilates on YouTube still, but I'm trying to show the history, really, the history and the legends, and whose shoulder we stand on, and so I had a whiteboard of 20 people. I thought that's all there was at the time, and it was literally to be able to go, well, if I can get Deborah Lesson, if I can get, so and so, then for anyone who challenges me, it was my own form of almost validating my torpy upstart, reputation that people may have had because they didn't know who I was, that I'm doing this new thing.
Right.
So I needed some validation. So there was a little bit of, let's just make sure I really stick to my mission, which was to provide the highest caliber. And I'm going to tell you why they are. This one knows Joseph Pilates. This one trained with,
Right. Well, so that's fantastic. So you were always interested in the legacy project before it was officially the legacy project.
Yeah. It was imperative from that first phone call I told you about when I said, okay, I'll do it. And it's not going to be all Bassy. I love Bassy. I'm still a Bassy gal. But it's going to be a mirror on the industry. And we're going to, in the beginning, we're going to record what was formerly an oral tradition.
Right.
And we kicked that off a little bit later, but just the videos themselves were doing that.
Right. And I think you've been very successful in that. And you've kept that thread, I think, all these years. I think that comes through very, very clearly.
Thank you. I hope
so.
Yeah.
So as we're talking, so thank you for the shout out just before, but there's something I actually want to share with both of you, which is I am so fortunate to have some videos on Pilates Anytime. I probably one of those people that never chased you down. We go to the PMAs and I always be so tired. They always throw the best parties, by the way. And you had always the most fantastic parties. And, I kind of consider myself the wallflower in Pilates, which is really funny that I sort of sit here and do the things that I do. And I was petrified to be on Pilates Anytime because I'm not that person, right? Or at least that's not how I saw myself as that person. But in the last, I would say, I would say throughout, Pilates Anytime has always had an embracing feel to it, certainly as somebody who would watch the videos. And certainly in the last 5-7 years, you've really shown the tableau that is Pilates with many of your guests and your teachers. How do we continue to make Pilates accessible to all bodies, all people, and more than just by having the videos accessible?
I think I might be speaking for you, but I think the more actual community events we could do, like we miss throwing the parties. I mean, they weren't easy to throw, but it got people together again. Yeah. And I think the more you can do that, just even if it's only teachers or real strong enthusiasts, they go out in the world and keep talking about it and being inspired by their community that they feel a part of, whether they're in Malta or they're in Italy or they're in Portugal or Santa Barbara.
Right. So continuing to build community.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I see that also in the videos that are coming out, like that are produced, that there's a real sense of belonging. Like Great. Pilates Anytime helps you feel like you belong to something. Does that make sense?
It's always been part of the hope. The inclusivity, that you belong here. We're always here. Doors open. Go wherever you want, but come back. We'll be here.
Right. And it does that, and it holds still to an aesthetic and a feel. So I think it's been just such a lovely representation of how this door to Pilates keeps opening. So then, what does that mean for the future? Where does this start to go?
I think just follow up on the last question, and then I'll go to the future. The concept that Kristi and I talked about right at the beginning is that we have a big tent, that everybody is welcomed, whether or not you come from this legacy, you're influenced by this teacher or by this one. Yeah, which of the elders?
The early diversity was the different legacy, wasn't it? Like that was the early diversity piece in Pilates.
Yeah,
It was new.
And the style of practice and accepting each other's style of practice. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, totally correct. And, like this idea that you're all welcome in this house.
Right.
And so that welcoming was, yes, all the teachers are welcome, but everybody, whether or not you live in this country or that country or what your gender is or whatever level of diversity, you're welcome here. That's what we wanted. Customer service, I did customer service for the first few years. And I wanted us to always be the best at it. Like one of those luxury hotel chains. That's how we want to treat the customers. That's how we want to treat our teachers that come and teach with us. It's how we want to teach the people we do business with, our vendors. So that was the whole concept there. Treat people well. Listen to their needs, and that's still the values of the company. So we really pushed that, like how well can we be in our society? So when we talk, you touched on the parties, which we loved throwing. That was like one of the high points of my this project that we've been doing for the last 15 years. And so the idea that people came there and felt safe, that they could dance like nobody was watching, that they weren't, all those things. And just seeing people have that incredible joy of just enjoying being with their Pilates peeps and having fun and all of that, it just brought so much happiness to my life, just seeing people have that much fun. And I think that the phase of the world that we're in right now, where there's a lot more social isolation, so, we have social media on the rise, which means we spend more time looking at our devices and not talking to people. Conferences generally have been reduced since the pandemic happened.
Right.
A lot less success, a lot less attendees at conference. So people aren't choosing to spend their money. And it's not just conferences in Pilates. Coachella doesn't sell out. There's just lots and lots of things that used to sell out that don't anymore. So that in-person gathering is there. And the result is this loneliness. And where I would love to see, and I don't know what the solution is, I have some ideas, and that could be a whole other thing. But my desire is that somehow we find a way for people to connect in person again. That they put their phones down and they leave the house and they go and talk to people and they enjoy being with them. And maybe it's to dance, maybe it's to move, maybe it's all of whatever it is, but just spend time face to face with people.
Right. Spend time together.
And laugh with each other and hug each other and just have fun again. So that's what I'd love to see. And how are we going to do that as a society? Because it's a societal need as much as it is a Pilates need. But I love the fact that I walk around my neighborhood and there are more Pilates studios in my community than I think there's ever been. And I walk past at 7 a.m. and I see these people moving and I'm seeing them having fun, and it just makes me feel so happy. So somehow my vision for the future for Pilates Anytime and everybody in this ecosystem that is Pilates, that we continue to bring joy to people that turn up in a studio and move and feel better. And that is it. And, one of the questions that I think you might be about to ask me is like, what is Pilates? Well, I think that Pilates is this gateway exercise modality that allows me to do all the other things that I want to do in my life. Whether that is to travel and be able to put my bag up here. As a pensioner now, that's the challenge I see from a lot of my peers. Or whether or not it's to go hiking, or whether or not it's to play pickleball, or whether or not it's, there's so many things that Pilates enables me to do. And I'd like to see it as this modality that is so widespread in our society that more and more people are able to move and experience the joy of feeling happy in their bodies.
How about for you, Kristi?
I think it's going to be more what I hope than what I know, but that's sort of how I operate. And manifest it later. I think that within the industry, I feel like we've been pushed into this isolation to a certain degree, and I feel like at some point that the collaboration is going to have to come back or get stronger, maybe is a better way of saying it, where more people are doing good work with each other and spreading the word. That's a vague way of saying I hope that more collaboration happens between companies, teachers, and just to get the word out. I also hope that Pilates is really booming again, right?
Yeah.
And so it's almost starting to kick up this former territorialism that used to exist and kind of went away.
Yeah.
And I think we're back into an opportunity of, okay, fine. So you love athletic reformer and you only do reformer and you're never going to ever try the mat. Okay, fine. But I feel like so many people are doing the bigger group classes and things like that, that if we can just start to catch the people with the history, with the reality that your life is going to be different. Your life is going to be better. And it's only an hour, a couple times a week, 4 times a week, max, So I just feel like that we're kind of in this, it feels chaotic to me, but I think with a little bit more collaboration again, that we have the opportunity to start catching the people who want to know more. Just like when I was a teenager, I didn't know all the work. I just knew I felt better. And I get to do something after school and I feel more in control than I ever have. And I want that in my life. So I wanted to know more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you laid a really lovely foundation of always, I think the origin stories are so important. And I think we learn through story, and keeping the story of Pilates in Pilates is so important, which is, again, I think something that Pilates Anytime has done so brilliantly. What's next for you guys? Like, what's next for Kristi Cooper?
For me, well, I am working on a couple more legacy project biographies. Joseph Pilates being the main one, the current one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a little nerve-wracking to tackle that one. But yeah, so with Jeff Mizushima, who most of you all know because he's done all my videos and all my Ken interviews. And so that, and then I handed off my day-to-day job to Chanda Hinman, and she's doing a great job. So now I'm really in a place where I would call it rebooting, reinventing is another way you might say it, to just figure out what's my next best step within this arena and perhaps something else. I just came back from photography school. So
I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you. I always think hashtag win. What is next?
Yes.
Yeah. John, how about for you?
Well, I turned 64 at the end of April, and I retired from the CEO role. So Kira Sloane is now the CEO of Pilates Anytime. So I'm on the board with Kristi, and my third act, which is how I like to think of it, is this third phase of my life, is about exploring. So my word for this decade is curiosity. So I am trying to travel the world and have a lot of amazing experiences. My goal is to visit 100 countries before I die. And I'm precisely halfway. I'm at 50 at the moment.
Fantastic.
So lots of travel, lots of experiences. And outside of that, my personal endeavor, and think of this as much more of a volunteer, is building community and bringing people together to have shared experiences that they may not feel comfortable having on their own. So just helping people experience more of life. And
so you're both taking the experiences of having built Pilates Anytime into these next, because they're the same themes that are running through, aren't they?
Yeah.
In such a lovely way. Okay, you ready for a quick lightning round?
Yep.
Favorite Pilates exercise and why?
For me, it's the teaser because it's in our logo.
I don't believe you. Just kidding. For me, toss up, but I'll go with spine stretch. And why? I do a version Rail taught me that includes a back extension in it. And so to just wring out everything, I just can almost hear Joseph Pilates going, this is the internal shower when you round forward and then back extension. That's
Fantastic. All right. What's your least favorite exercise and why?
For me, neck pull. And I blame my long arms. They really
It changes the level. Right?
I'm so heavy. Yeah, it's just not pretty.
The 100 is just miserable.
I think Alan Herdman would agree with you. What is your hope for the Pilates community?
That we all get along, that we all keep sharing the good work that this is, that we remind people it's a practice and that it's not just a moment.
Remind people it's a practice and not a moment.
It's not just a workout.
Yeah, say that again.
That we remind people that Pilates is a practice. It's not just a workout. And if you do practice it, you have way more opportunity to know where you are in space and life and what you need to maybe focus on.
Right, which goes back to, John, one of your first goals was to do good. What is your hope for the community?
I think about the community here as the Pilates ecosystem of people that practice, people that teach, people that make equipment. If we all work together, the pie gets bigger and bigger. If we all fight and compete against each other, it's destructive. So I'd like to think that Pilates is such a commonly understood modality that everybody's aware of it. It's part of their lives, part of their movement, and it empowers people to have better time, more joy.
More joy.
And, like I mentioned before, it's an empowering device. Pilates is not, for me, the destination. It's a tool that gets you to get to do all of the crazy shit that you want to do in life.
Right. Fantastic. Well, John and Kristi, I just want to thank you both so much for everything you do, have done, and will do, and obviously for spending this time with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you to Balance Body for making Pilates Perspectives possible. To experience the full potential of Pilates, having the right equipment is essential. Balance Body has spent over 40 years designing equipment that supports all types of movement and bodies. From the compact, storable Metro IQ reformer to high-density foam props, each piece is meticulously crafted in the US of A to fit your needs. Head to Pilates.com to learn more. Okay, so I'm here with Kira Sloane from Pilates Anytime, CEO of Pilates Anytime. Fancy title. So you want to tell us a little bit about that journey to your fancy schmancy title?
Thanks for asking, Joy.
All right, full disclosure, we actually had dinner last night and we actually are pretty pumped for this conversation. And actually, let me give a quick little bit of history. I feel very honored to have you here. I feel that very often, especially in the limelight of Pilates, there are people who have really been holding up the space, and you are one of those people. And I'm so really happy to expose you to the limelight, to put you in front of the camera and the lights and a microphone.
Oh, that's amazing coming from you, Joy, because really, right back at you. I can't even stand next to you in that compliment, so thank you. And I feel really honored to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
All right. So you find yourself in the CEO spot at Pilates Anytime. You've been there since 2023. You want to tell us a little bit about that journey?
Thanks. So 2023 was when I was tapped to be the CEO, but I first came to be with the team in 2014. John Marston likes to tell the story that I met Kristi over a dead body. We were together with Gil Headley. Do you know Gil Headley?
Yes. You did a fresh dissection with Gil Headley, which I'm always really careful because I want to say live dissection, and I think that would just be unfortunate.
It's not live dissection.
Yeah,
no, he does do preserved bodies and live dissection.
Uh-huh.
So I met Kristi.
Fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Fresh. Let's make sure we get that right. So that's mostly where I met Kristi in 2014,
fantastic.
April 2014. We were up in the Bay Area, San Francisco, for about 3 weeks. I had actually come to her studio the year before to go to a slideshow that Gil Headley was presenting. And that was my first time stepping into that Padaro studio. Didn't really know Kristi, didn't really know Pilates Anytime.
Fantastic.
Had never been surrounded by so many Pilates people and sort of left thinking, wow, Pilates people are hotter than yoga people. And so, but that's how I met Kristi. And right after that, Kristi approached me to join Pilates Anytime and start yoga anytime.
So let's back up for a second because this is a part of your story I didn't know. So what brought you to Gil Headley?
Oh, thanks. So
we're going back.
That's how you start any good story. You start in the middle and go forwards and backwards. So I came to yoga in 95.
As a practitioner?
That's where like most people who come to yoga, I came in pain and then left a practitioner.
Fantastic.
Gil had been on my list for maybe 10 years as somebody I wanted to study with. And just the logistics, the timing, the cost, all of those things finally converged in 2014 for me to be able to study with him. And have you ever studied with him, Joy?
I have not studied with him. I've done other dissection, but I didn't do it with him. I've had the pleasure of meeting him at fascia congresses, but not study with him.
It really has nothing to do with dissection. I mean, to be with Gil is to be on a journey of what it means to be a human being.
Okay, so this is the Kira Sloane I wanted to pull out because you find yourself at Pilates Anytime, but the way in which you approach your work is with sort of that same level of interest and curiosity in sort of the human condition. Would you agree with that?
I was like, is there a question? Yeah, that's what makes the whole journey interesting, isn't it? It's like, what are we doing here?
So from that perspective, we had a chat with Kristi and John. They, talked a bit about founding Pilates Anytime, how Pilates Anytime came from in the space before video streaming. Like, I think we forget that Pilates Anytime started as video streaming was starting, MTV and all that fun stuff. So
are we in the 80s suddenly?
Yeah, well,
did you just say MTV?
I did say MTV, but all right, maybe not MTV, but essentially that this watching in video on demand was relatively new at the time Pilates Anytime started. You're looking at me like maybe that's not
slightly. I'm looking at you funny. I think they were the first to the space, or they were relatively new into the space regarding Pilates.
Yeah,
but video streaming has been going on for a long time. So in the way back land of the time machine, one of the companies I worked for in one of my many former lives was Web TV. Do you remember this?
Web TV
was in the late 90s.
Yes.
Where
we're so dating ourselves.
I know.
I said MTV.
Late 90s, where there was the thought that people weren't really going to use computers, so let's put the internet on their TV.
Yes, I remember.
And the TV came with a keyboard and a device and the whole thing.
Yep.
And so, and before I was approached by John and Kristi, I had been broadcasting classes from our yoga studio starting back in 2007 with a little security camera in the back of the room. So when they first approached me to work with them, not my arrogance so much, but my sense was, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. I know all about that.
Are you serious? Because really, from the Pilates perspective and that professional medium, like that's one thing to have a security camera, like, broadcasting from the back of your yoga studio, and another thing to create the production that is Pilates Anytime.
100%.
Yeah.
And have you seen the very first video of Kristi against the crinkly curtain? So, there's an evolution. There's an evolution. No. So I would say that when they first approached me to join them, my first response was no, because I already had a bunch of jobs. And my impression was that really, if they wanted to make a successful yoga product, they should hire somebody younger and more enthusiastic. Because by 2014, my yoga had gotten so weird. I mean, I'm a weirdo. And so what I was mostly interested was, where is the breath in my inner left nostril, and how does that feel in my pinky toe?
Oh my God, you are perfect.
Where
for
is that in my heart?
Community.
So, I mean, I just was in such a weird place. And what was taking off online at the time in 2014, where the yoga had evolved in the country, was really, I'm going to use the word power yoga, a lot of heavy asana. And I just had really moved away from that in my own teaching. And so just to say that I knew nothing about subscription video on demand like they know. And the magic of when finally I found myself saying yes was when you have your own tiny little boutique brand, right? I had my own little carved out boutique corner in the, corner of the corner of the corner of the yoga industry.
Right.
And when you're one little tiny brand, it can be hard to know where you fit. And you can look at things as like, that's good, that's bad, that's good yoga, that's bad. You sort of are in a very isolated, almost, I don't want to say defensive space, but there's kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the invitation that John and Kristi and Ted, who's the third founder, who I don't think was a part of the interview, the invitation to become more of a big tent and to be able to include a huge variety of yoga was such a gift.
Right. So you started with them with yoga anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think as you're speaking, one of the things that's coming to me is, I think on the Pilates side, which is the side I can speak to, that Pilates anytime, did that very thing for the Pilates instructor who was in the corner of that little space in the corner of the Pilates industry. And it was a brand that brought everyone together to get a sense for good Pilates, to get a sense for working with teachers who they may not be able to reach because of where they live or the time they have. So that contribution, I think, you were completely right. It totally paid off. Do you get that kind of feedback from people on a daily basis of what Pilates Anytime or how Pilates Anytime has impacted them?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. I want to speak to a couple things that you brought up. One is 100% the heart that is Kristi Cooper, that just so devoted to that unification, to that connection, but not unification in a we all have to think the same thoughts and say the same things, but in we can exist in our unique amazingness. It's just so palatable and continues to be one of the most important parts of the legacy that I have the opportunity to carry forward. And then you have John, the vibe of John and just his ability to make it such a great time while also knowing his superpower of spreadsheets. I mean, he's so unique. It's very rare to meet somebody with spreadsheet, Excel superpower, and
who loves to have a great time.
Party superpower.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing. And so, just wanted to take a moment to really honor them. And then Ted, who is really doesn't show up as much as they do. He doesn't go to the parties as much as they do, but really such a incredible entrepreneurial mind and ability to build things. And so, from the reason, what keeps you going in any endeavor is that you need to hear that it's working.
Right.
And we hear that from our customers, our members. I get to hear that so much at your events, the POTs, where we get to meet members. We get to hear who they love, how they found it, what brought them there, how they got there. And that's how you know it's working. One, you can have a crap day for whatever reason, and you read a comment and a video made a difference. You're like, I can keep going.
Right. It's interesting. So, you brought up Kristi and John and sort of their uniqueness, and Ted, their entrepreneurial spirit. Those are three big shoes to fill. In this sort of transition that you've had, what have been some of the high points, and what have been some of the things that make you go, oh, maybe I should have thought about that a little differently.
John never pretended that it was going to be easy. So for years, I mean, John has a very deliberate, long form pace. Basically, John lets you know what's going to be happening 2 years in advance of it happening. He just sort of onboards you. And
I
so
love that.
way in advance, John was like, this job is lonely and it's hard. This job is lonely and it's hard. And so he told me that multiple times. So if I was going to represent that anything was a surprise, then it would be funny. A couple challenges that you put in your question. One is there are very few stories of successful founder-owner transitions.
Yes.
So knowing that, going into that wide-eyed and really kind of being open to, all right, this has a low chance of success. Therefore, that sounds like fun. I mean, if it was easy, I probably wouldn't be very interested in it, Joy.
Love it. Love it.
One of the many secret sauces of Kristi, John, and Ted is that they really committed to staying out of each other's way. Kristi was allowed to be in charge of the content and the relationships. Ted was really given full carte blanche to the design, the engineering, the user experience, the product. And he also has a film degree. So he was also the original kind of, this is how it's going to look and feel. And then John did everything else, from HR to finance to training to customer service and, of course, to parties. And the three of them really stayed in their own lanes. Now, as we merge from three separate lanes into one,
Yep.
and you're trying to create a more collaborative, wholesome thing, because, siloed work can go fast, but it isn't necessarily what's right for the whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a challenge.
Unto itself, that's a whole cultural shift, right? I mean, not only are you talking about personnel, but you're talking about how do you create that culture that is uniformly going to move that one lane forward.
Move that one lane. And the three of them have a really unique, very special ability. When you're with them, they are not afraid to challenge each other, to talk to each other. And it's in this wonderful spirit of moving towards the collective good of where they're going. That's founder energy. So One of the greatest threats to us in this transition is that we lose that founder energy. Which has energy for everything and anything.
Right. Everything is possible.
Which has no problem being up at a Saturday night scanning customer comments because it's that important. And so that's something that bridging that is, I don't know how to do that yet. I mean, just to be fully honest, like, wow, we're losing 3 huge Energizer batteries. So that's exciting to kind of help collectively create the vision that is inspiring for everybody to show up, because it really is this sort of, we're in a startup moment. We're we've been here for 15 and a half years.
Yep.
And technology has changed a lot. Yep. Video delivery has changed a lot. The landscape of online video delivery has changed a lot. Pilates has changed a lot. And so we have a reinvention moment. So this wonderful opportunity to bring forward what is, as well as listen and follow how it needs to transform to meet this next moment.
Well, so I can't help but parallel our paths, right? Myself taking over for Al Harrison and Nora St. John and the education, I felt exactly the same way. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. And also sort of like meeting this moment of change. So on the one hand, that's a good thing in the sense that it's not just founder energy and you're trying to sustain that. You're walking into a new space that actually also feels new in that the industry is new. The expectations are new. The technology is new. And everything is growing. And in that growth, you have to meet the growth as well as transition into from what was into what is and what could be. So that's a lot of statement but my question to you, and it's just something that I've really pondered, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because it is, there will be inevitable comparisons. well, so-and-so did it this way, and why aren't you doing it like so-and-so? And why would you change that? It was working. Why change something that's not broken? Dot, dot, dot. What's your sort of like internal why on this?
Oh, thanks. I can't wait to find out what I say. And I'm going to take the luxury of stepping back a couple moments to come to that. So I loved my life as a yoga professional. I mean, I was making a living in my pajamas. I traveled and taught internationally. It was a community center. We had a training, we had a studio, we had an event. I loved it. And so I was surprised to begin to hear the inner guidance that it was coming to an end. And, you can't just be in the business of transformation. You have to also transform. And that is part of the whole yoga program, is to essentially allow I'm going to call it the small self ego, to be strong enough to withstand decimation. That's what's fun. I mean, that's really where freedom is no longer being beholden to yourself. So that opportunity.
So you could take the risks.
Yeah.
Because otherwise
there's nothing to lose. In fact, the more experience you gain of that, like just decimation of self might be a little strong, but that's how it feels, right? That is what it's like. Wow. And so I love that. So probably I love it maybe a little too much. And one of the things in all of this change
love it too much
is that I have to be very aware and listen closely to what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed in our experience of Pilates? Like, what hasn't changed? Like the history of Pilates hasn't changed, although sometimes current perspective changes historical understanding. The devotion of the students, the way we love our teachers, the possibility of what comes from a practice, that opportunity of realization with each moment, those things don't change. And so the why, I truly suffer from loving work. I love work with others because I love coming together and discovering something that doesn't yet exist.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting. The culture piece, I think, is something that, in all of the, the leadership workshops you take, or, the podcasts you listen to, the culture piece is so important. What would you say what is the culture, the internal culture of Pilates Anytime?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. It's always about relationship. And the one of the most powerful places in the company, of course, is what's happening in that studio.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens in that studio is what happens. Pixels carry intention. Pixels carry love. And if love and connection isn't happening in that studio, then Pilates isn't happening. And so it is that core. And the team in that studio loves what they do. And they love everybody who comes. And they care for everybody who comes. So that's like
I can attest to that. I mean, I love them walking out the door, but they made me feel like I was the only one. Like
they really do. So that's the core. That's the core.
Yeah.
And that team couldn't do what they do if finance wasn't doing what they do.
Correct.
Because nobody wants to come film and not get paid. And they couldn't do what they do if operations wasn't doing what they do. And they couldn't do what they do if the engineers weren't building the products and watching the thing. And they couldn't do what they do if post-production wasn't taking what that was filmed in the studio and putting it out. And so nobody can do anything in that team without each other. And we realize that. And so that is what feels great. There's an appreciation, there's a gratitude, and there's respect.
So you say the pixels carry that, but I would say, or I would ask you, that culture, that internal culture, doesn't that come through to the product, to the customer?
I hope so.
Uh-huh.
I hope so. I'd ask you, does it?
I believe that wholeheartedly. I think the intention starts long before the lights turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in the studio, the magic happens almost organically, because all that happened before, and that's going to happen on the backside, and that's going to happen with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing for us with education.
Yeah. Say more.
Yeah. Say more?
Say
you want to
more.
ask me?
Yeah, I want to ask you.
Well, for me, education isn't about what we produce here at Balanced Body. So for me, I had a studio in New York, right? The reason I left New York to come out to California, I lived my whole life within 8 miles. I came out to California to do this work because of just what you said, the opportunity to reach, and the opportunity to touch more, right? And to expand. And so it's not the education that we produce here, and it's not just the course that's taught to a student, but it's the instructor who touches the client. It's the client that we're trying to reach.
And that's where I think that, the complexity that we both face is the apparent immensity of diversity of who that client is, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
When somebody walks into your studio, there's an immediate, obvious exchange and connection of, oh, these are the teachings that are going to arise, right?
Right.
You don't even know what you know until the teachings are occurring, right? And that's the thing I maybe am aware of that I'm missing out most by no longer being in a teaching space, is I'm no longer in intimate relationship with the actual teachings, because the teachings only show up when you're sharing them. So, you make a video, you put it out there, and then the whole journey of you've made a beginner video. So if somebody shows up and is not a beginner, they might be upset. Or maybe you've made a video for a teacher, and so if somebody's a beginner and they find it, they might be upset. And so that's part of that's one of the exciting things about the technology, is it makes it easier and easier to kind of be able to intuit who's here. What are they liking? Mm-hmm. What are they needing?
Or creating
not
more
in a creepy way.
A universal studio, right? Like it's still a same warm, inviting space, if you will, but you're able to guide people in the direction that's going to suit them.
And that's, Chanda, who is our lead in Pilates now. She's the VP of Pilates Anytime and is really standing at the helm. She is so skillful at being able to hold on to the excellence and dedication to the professional, and really work to bring in people that are welcoming, friendly, and embracing, no matter where you are in your Pilates journey.
Do you miss teaching? One. And how has the teaching informed, the teacher in you informed the CEO in you?
Oh, that's a great question, Joy.
Sorry, we're way off script, by the way. So
that's when it gets fun. I don't miss being a yoga teacher, meaning I don't miss being that person for people.
Uh-huh.
I think you know what I mean. I miss the third space that happens when you're a teacher. That's sort of that again, I miss being close to the teachings. I miss being with. I also, it's quite satisfying to be a spiritual entertainer and to hop into a room, especially if they don't know your jokes and, be able to run a show. That's fun. So I don't get that hit anymore. And I think the thing that is, though, the part I live a very anonymous life now. And I used to think everybody was really nice. But what I realized is they were really nice because I was their yoga teacher. And now that I'm just Joe Schmo in line and you don't know me from Eve or Adam, the being nothing and nobody and not having people be just friendly to you because they have an experience of what you're helping shape, I feel like I have a much clearer perspective of what it's like to be a human being and to be ignored and not important. And that feels proper.
That feels
proper. Just like, oh, this is what it's like for most people to not be adored. People adore you when you're their teacher, whether that's correct or not. They do. So that's
but that sets you up for being CEO.
And yeah, to be hated. I mean, really, right? You're the man. I'm the man now, right? Like I'm the person.
How did the yoga hippie become the man? I know that's a
good one. So, but you asked me how being a teacher informs being a CEO. It's really more like how being a cult leader informs being a CEO, and you can't. And what I mean by that is, I can't lead through personality.
No.
I cannot lead through personality. I can't lead
God,
from the perspective.
I wish you could. I tried. I tried. It doesn't work.
Can't lead by hoping people like you. Can't lead by trying to do right by everybody. Can't lead by making everybody happy. You have this tension that you're balancing all the time between you genuinely, for real, care about each individual so deeply. You know what you might know what they want. You might know what they need. But then you've got them, and then you've got their team. And then you've got the organization, and then you've got the board, and then you've got the planet. Yeah. And those things are sometimes in conflict. And so navigating that, in yoga, they call it the field of Dharma, navigating that and just listening for what the right thing to do is. And it's not always what you want to do, and it's rarely popular. It's a series of hard, difficult, bad, and unpopular decisions all day long.
Oh, because you have to take you have to take the whole into account while you're trying to make decisions that are impacting the individuals.
That said, we're making Pilates and yoga videos, so a bad decision is not going to result in death.
Yes.
So probably not.
Yeah. So keep it in perspective. 100%.
And also I'm a CEO of an already successful business, which is quite luxurious.
Right. Interesting. So in terms of sort of being the second mice, right? Like there's advantages to that. We can see through the lens of the past. But in order to do what you're talking about, you have to have a vision, right? You can't quite just pick up where everybody left off and happily ride off into that in that direction. Like your far out vision, the thing that your North Star that keeps you moored when you have to make decisions that are going to be unpopular or that are going to force people to feel a little outside their comfort zone. What's your North Star?
Oh, thank you so much. I should say first, I am devoted to Kristi, John, and Ted. I never thought, I just want to put this in there. I did not think of myself as hireable. And they have trusted me and given me a huge amount of opportunity that has led to many beautiful things in my life. And I just, while I have a North Star for the company, it's also really important to me that I serve them.
Well, it's a North Star based on a foundation.
So I just want to, that is very important.
Yeah.
And our tech team is rebuilding our tech stack. Our tech stack was launched in 2010. So we're rebuilding our tech stack through
Right.
which
back in the days of horse and buggies.
Yep,
didn't we
pretty
establish
much,
that?
pretty much. I think I was. If you look at photos of me at that time, I'm in sepia tone, and so
I don't look good in bonnets, by the way.
oh,
Yeah.
I doubt that.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, so that opportunity to rebuild the tech stack and to therefore launch a new experience of Pilates anytime
Yeah. It's exciting.
is so exciting.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And so I love tech and I love video and I love community and I love the delivery of joy. And so I'm so excited about that. And we have a great team to do it. Simultaneously, as we build that tech stack, we have the opportunity to discover new ways to serve our teachers and new ways to serve our community that I don't know what those are going to be yet,
right.
which is really exciting.
Yeah. Really exciting because things are moving and really fast out in Pilates land, right? So yeah, I would imagine it kind of does feel weirdly new.
It feels new and old, right? All the time.
All at the same time.
All the time. So I feel like what will stay the same is we've been dedicated to, preserving and sharing the teachings of old, but we don't want to just be museum keepers. We also want to be artists.
Right.
And
Well
so
said.
setting that up for us and our whole community is what I'm most excited about.
All right. So I know that yoga is in your bones, but you've certainly done and watched enough Pilates over the years. What's your favorite Pilates exercise and why? These are rapid fire questions.
Okay. If I'm in a group reformer class, it's always feet and straps. If I'm in a private on a Cadillac, it's parakeet.
Ooh.
But if
why?
I'm on a mat in a mat class,
Yeah.
it's saw. I love saw so much.
All right. What's your least favorite?
Okay, I know what it is. It's all the kicking. I feel so stupid. I feel like I'm in like a Miss Maisel episode. I just feel so silly with those little kicks. I feel like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yes, a Miss Maisel episode. Fantastic. There's something else for you guys to watch if you haven't watched it. What's your definition of Pilates?
Oh my God, I love that question so much. For me personally,
Yeah.
how I think of Pilates is it's a quality of quietude that comes from focused attention on the smallest details.
Okay. Did you rehearse that? That was fantastic.
Oh, that's completely what that is for me.
I love that. Quick, I just have to switch in terms of like yoga Pilates. What are the fundamental differences yoga Pilates?
That is not a rapid fire question.
No, that's not a rapid fire question, but I want to ask you that because we've talked about this in the past, and it's something else you say that
Can I
love.
get 2 minutes though? Like, can I have?
You get- okay, this is
Okay.
two-
I need a little bit more time because I want to start off with what our customers say.
Yeah.
So deep research with our customers, Pilates and yoga. Our Pilates customers say, I do Pilates because of what it allows me to do. It allows me to do the things I love.
Right.
And our yoga customers say, I practice yoga because of my relationship with others. One is to kind of find yourself as a unique container specifically.
Right.
And another is much more to,
Right. I've heard you say Pilates helps you keep it together, and yoga helps you let it all fall apart.
that's it.
Right.
And both result in a sense of ease of what's happening.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting the, this whole idea of yin and yang really come to mind when you put it that way. Where do you see Pilates going in the future if you were to clean off your crystal ball there?
How far in the future, Joy?
That's a good question. You and I are sitting in a rocking chair somewhere. This is all behind us. We're somewhere in Maine on a big porch looking over the ocean.
Are we eating lobster rolls or smoking pipes?
Both.
Great.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to put that we're next year. No, I'm going to put that at, we're 86. So I'm going to go forward, somewhere around 30 years. And, well, I really hope it doesn't go the same way that yoga went, which is it went big, it went wide, it went giant studios coming over from Asia, service industry.
Yep.
which was amazing because so many people got to experience it. But it had to sort of reduce itself so much that maybe it lost the plot a little bit. So I really love I'm excited about what's happening in Pilates, that more and more and more people are having the opportunity. And, in yoga, I used to sort of feel like, okay, all of that, what I sort of look at, all of that all those entry points that are lighter entry points. My working assumption, in the early 2000s was they are preparing people to be ready for the deeper teachings. Because the deeper teaching, you can't access deeper teachings unless you're ready. They just read like,
Right. Yeah, like you're underwater.
right?
Yeah,
And so I wanted to believe that that's not what happened.
yeah.
That's not what happened in yoga.
Yeah.
And so I really want to believe that that Pilates, through stewards as yourself, as Balanced Body, as Pilates Anytime, and all the amazing teachers out there teaching,
Right.
that everybody will be able to experience the magic that hooked you and I.
Fantastic. Okay, very last thing. What's your hope for the Pilates community?
That it continues to find wonder and amazement in all the different points of view. I can't see what you see.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very unique point of view, but I can listen to you and I can imagine and be excited by a new idea.
Fantastic. That was fantastic, and I'd love to make you say it again, but I won't do that. So, Kira Sloane, thank you so much for joining me. I'm just so happy that we're in this space at the same time together.
Ditto.